Hi, welcome back to By Design Visuals. This is the last video that we're going to have in our series, Flannelgraph Basics. Last time we were together, we took the Scenic Overlay series, and I showed you how to cut out the different backgrounds that we have, how to cut out overlays, how it worked with our board. Today, we're going to be dealing with how to cut out figures. For today's video, you're going to need two different sets from your beginnings series. You're going to need your beginnings figure set, and you're going to need this miscellaneous figure set, but we'll deal with that one a little bit later. Inside your beginnings figure set, you're going to find a couple different things. Number one, you're going to find your scissors in there. There they are. But you're also going to find this Adam and Eve figure set, and I'll show you why this is so important in just a moment. Go ahead and pull it out. Find yourself maybe a table or something like that. Some area where you can lay this out as much as possible, where it's going to be clean, it's going to be dry, and don't forget what I said last time, one of the last times. Remember to wash your hands before you start handling this flannelgraph. Nothing is going to destroy your flannelgraph faster than dirty hands. Now, you'll see there's a lot of figures on this. Very, very colorful. Here's the process for doing this. Just take your scissors, and as quickly as possible, I mean, you obviously being careful not to cut into a figure, just start in and cut all these different figures out, separate them, and put them in a pile. I'm not going to do all these. I'm just going to do a few of them to show you how this works. But you can do this pretty quick. Cut all these different figures apart, put them in a pile. Now I'm going to show you how to cut these out in detail. Here I have done exactly what I said. I've taken my beginnings figure set and I've cut all of these figures into their individual pieces. Well, you might notice here as I actually have them in three different piles. What are they for? How does this break out? Well, I have actually figures that work more as overlays. I have figures that are exactly that. They're a biblical figure. And I have some that are actually a combination figure. And I want to talk to you about how to cut out all three of these because they're different and it's very, very important. These figures that work basically as overlays, I want you to notice some of them have this thick black line around them. Some of them have a thinner black line, but they all have a black line around them. Those that work actually as overlays, you want to cut that black line completely off. You don't want it there at all. You use the same process as you did with the overlays. You're going to cut just very, very carefully alongside that black line, removing the black line and moving just a little ways in. Let me just take this one. This is the figure of Adam and Eve as they are hiding in the garden after they've eaten from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Just going to very carefully cut this black line completely off. You say, well, why are you cutting the black line off, John? Well, because you want this figure to blend into the scenery. Remember that they're hiding. A regular figure, you're going to leave about half of the black line on the figure. Why? Well, because it acts like a frame, like a picture frame. You want it to actually pop, off the board. You want it to really be visible. You want it to be seen. These figures that we are dealing with as overlays, you want it to blend in with the background, whether it's the water sky or the meadow or the wilderness, whatever backgrounds that you happen to have in that particular story, you want it to blend with that background and just to become part of that scene, part of that picture. So work your way around carefully. Take your time. You're going to hear me say that a lot. You only get one chance to cut this out. So I'm doing this fairly fast, but go ahead and just take your time at home, particularly when you get around the places right next to the figure here, like with Adam's arm. You want to be careful not to cut anything off that you don't want removed. So just work your way around, treating this exactly as I said, like an overlay. And I'm going to show you in just a second all the different figures in the beginning series that fall inside that category, so you won't be confused. But as you cut out your other figures, whether it's in the Abraham series or Jacob series or Joseph series or even the miscellaneous figure set, Go through and you can make your own judgment call on that, whether you want it to blend with the background or whether you want it to stand out. And I think once you understand the principle of it, it'll actually become fairly obvious. So there you have it, okay? You see, I've removed that entire black line. So once the meadow gets on there, we're going to be using this in the story that we're going to be using through this entire series. That'll blend right in. So let me go through these very, very quickly. You have this figure of Adam and Eve hiding. Now I want to mention very quickly these two figures, because these two figures, you'll see them printed, but what I want you to do is I actually want you to throw them away. Just get rid of them. Just remove them. Let me tell you why. They've been replaced with these two figures. We made a really, really serious mistake when we first put this together, didn't even really realize it, but once we did, it became very, very obvious. Let me show you. Look at the difference between these two figures. What do you think it communicates? Well, this is Adam before he ate from the fruit. This is Adam after he ate the fruit from the tree. What we were communicating, and communicating falsely, is that in some respect, with the artwork, well, Adam was kind of a white Caucasian guy like me before the fall. Afterward, his skin darkened. Big mistake. That's not something we wanted to communicate because it's just not true. And so you'll find these figures, these replacement figures, in your set. If they're not in your set, contact us and we'll get them to you immediately. But these two figures of Adam and Eve with this glow around them, you want to cut that black line all the way off, just like we did with our other figure. These two figures after the fall, you want to cut the black line off those as well. The two beautiful figures that show the Garden of Eden, cut that black line off. You want all of this to blend together. Those are the ones that are in the overlay series where you want to cut the black line completely off. Now these four figures, actually, they need to be over here. All of the figures in this pile, you're going to leave the black line on, all right? Cut about halfway into the black line. That will be absolutely perfect. You have these four beautiful images as we go through the Noah story with Noah looking out the window of the ark. So you have these four. You have the regular figures. You have Ham, Shem, and Japheth. You have their wives. You have the angel with the sword. Here's one of their wives. Here's Noah himself. You have Cain. Now you might notice with Cain, we've left a portion of background inside there. Why? Well, because we didn't want to have any interior cuts at all. We wanted you to be able to cut around the figure just around the perimeter. And so if it needs a background, we've tried to keep that inside the figure for make it easier to cut out. Another one of the wives, if you ever wanted to know what Noah's wife looks like, well, there she is. The other brothers, Cain's offering. All of these figures that are in this pile, you cut around the perimeter and you leave about half of the black line there. You want them to have that idea of popping off the image. But let me talk about these special figures. These are figures that are a combination. Let me just choose one of them out. Let me just take the tigers here. What I'm going to do, on the top, where I want the image of the tiger, where I want that to be visible and to really pop off, I'm going to leave the black line. But down here, I'm going to cut that black line off because on the bottom portion, because this is going to be put over the meadow background, I want that to blend into the background. So this is a combination figure. Let me just do this one quickly, and let me show you what this looks like. So when I get down to his paws, right where it moves into the meadow area, now I'm going to start cutting that black line off. Like I said, just do this carefully. And what I'm doing with the tiger figure, you're going to be doing with all the other figures that I'm going to show you in this pile. They're a combination figure. So now when I get back to his tail, back to his paws in the back, feet in the back, now I start moving into this black line area. And you'll notice I'm cutting part of it off. If I show it against the white here, maybe you can see it. I'm cutting part of it off and I'm leaving part of it on. This is a combination figure. And so you're going to use this method with all of the figures in this pile, which I'll show you in just a second here. So there's a portion of this figure that you want to blend in with the meadow background. You just want it to become one with the scene. And there's a portion that you want to stand out like a regular figure. So these are the three different types that you will find in all the different figure sets that we have, whether it's miscellaneous figures, beginnings figures, Abraham figures, Jacob or Joseph figures. They will be one of these three different combinations. The majority of them will be regular figure sets where you will keep the black line, but some of them will be a combination figure like this. So on the bottom, you want it to blend in with the meadow. On the top, you want it to stand out. The serpent, from the story, of course, that we're going to be dealing with in just a little bit later to the rest of this series, the serpent when he's in the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Here is that tree of knowledge of good and evil. You want part of this to stand out, but you want the combination of these two figures, you want to blend together so it looks like a singular image. And so you're going to cut the black line off around the area of the tree, possibly the area of the trunk. But when it comes around the serpent, you want that to stand out. So you're going to leave that black image. Many of the animals, the pair of ostrich here, you leave the black line on the top, cut it off on the bottom. Adam, after the fall, when God clothes them with these skins of animals, the majority of this figure, you keep the black line on, but there's just a small portion here of his feet where you cut that black line off. Same principle takes place with the elephants, with the giraffe, and with this combination figures with all the different animals as they're moving up into the ark. You keep the black line on the top from the elephant's tail all the way to the front of the pair of ostrich here, and then you cut the black line off on the bottom because you want that to blend in with the meadow. And this is the last one. Adam and Eve, after God has to force them to go out of the garden because of their sin, you keep the majority of the black line around the figure. But down here, where their feet, if you want, and do it very, very carefully, cut that black line off. These are the principles for cutting out the figure sets. So very, very quickly, I'll just go over it one more time. Take your figure sets out, whether it's beginnings figures, miscellaneous figures, Abraham, Jacob, Joseph, any other set that you purchase that we have, go through, simply cut them out of the cloth, put them in a pile, and separate them out into one of these three different categories. If it's an overlay, you're going to cut the black figure or the black line completely off. If it's a regular figure, you're going to leave about 50% of the black line on because you want it to stand out from the board. And some of them, look carefully, and you can make that decision. There's not really a right or wrong way to do that. If you decide that it's a combination figure, cut the black line off on the part where it blends in with the meadow overlay or whether it blends in with the wilderness or something like that. But the majority of that figure, you're going to leave that black line on. Well, here's what your beginning set is going to look like with everything cut out. I have all your different overlay figures cut out. I have your regular figures cut out where you leave the black line. I have all my combination figures cut out where we leave the black line generally on the top part and cut it off on the bottom where it blends in with the scenery. But I want to show you how this is actually designed to work. In each of these sets, especially the figure sets, there's this beautiful colored placard that it's not just for advertising, it's not just to look nice, it actually has a design purpose. And so when you're done cutting out all of your figures, put it face down, a table or somewhere, And starting with your largest figures, and you're going to remember, you're going to want to fold these with the print side in so they don't get dirty and so they don't wear. You're going to have to fold them if they're too large, but try and get all of them, just place them on this placard. Doesn't matter what order that they're in. Just go ahead and lay them on there. Here's your arc. Small version of the arc. Take your different figures and just layer them on this placard. So I'll just go ahead and pick these up. Now that you have them all on the placard, you can simply pick that placard up and put it back in your envelope. Slide them right in. I haven't talked at all really about our booklet, but inside each of these figure sets, it has its own 4-color booklet. We'll talk about that actually in the next video series and show you actually how this works and how this all goes together. But something I do want to mention, some of the figures in these different sets are actually pretty small. Now, as we say, the great thing about Flannelgraph is it sticks to Flannelgraph. But the bad thing about Flannelgraph is it sticks to Flannelgraph. So what I do and what I recommend, get yourself a small Ziploc bag, take the smallest figures and put them in their own little Ziploc bag. That way they won't get lost. Go ahead and put those in there. You're going to want to keep your book in here. You can zip it closed. Kind of press the air out so it stays nice and flat. All right, there you go. You're all ready to go. One last thing I want to mention about the design of this is on every single figure, there is a number combined with a letter. Now, I could cut out and have cut out in my set every figure that we have for the entire Genesis series. Now, if I get some little helper come along, maybe one of my grandkids or, a friend, they come and they'd like to see what John's doing, and they take all of this out and spread it all over the floor. It's not really a problem, because this is designed so that very, very quickly I can take every single figure that's in any of these sets and know immediately where they go. Every single figure in the beginnings set, on that figure you're going to find there's a letter A and then a corresponding number. A1, A3, A7, A23. All of the figures that go in the beginning series, they start with the letter A. It's printed right on the figure. If you find a figure that has the letter B on it, it's from the Abraham series. If it has C on it, it's from the Jacob series. If it has a D on it, it's from the Joseph series. If it has an M on it, it's from the miscellaneous figure set, and it goes right back in there. So this is perfectly organized for you. We're going to show you in the next series when we talk about Flannelgraph prep, how to actually use all of these different backgrounds, these overlays, and these figures, how to be able to tell and prepare a Flannelgraph story so you can have an incredible ministry using these resources anywhere that God calls you to go in the world. Thanks for watching. I hope you join us next time when we move into that brand new series, How to Prepare a Flannelgraph Story, Flannelgraph Prep. Thanks for watching.